painting.
For the third hardcover book containing 60 full-color reproductions of Bob Ross's favorite paintings, including the 13 paintings in this series, call 1-800-BOB-ROSS or send $25 plus $3.50 for postage and handling to Post Office Box 149, Muncie, Indiana 47308. Canadian residents add $6 shipping and handling. U.S. dollar postal money order only. This 256-page hardcover book contains over 1,400 step-by-step photos as well as detailed written instructions for each of Bob's favorite paintings. This keepsake book is also available in fine bookstores or from your local arts and crafts supplier. This program is brought to you by a grant from the Artist Magazine, the step-by-step magazine of instruction and inspiration for artists, and by the Martin F. Weber Company, manufacturers of a wide range of fine artist materials and exclusive U.S. distributor of Wattman watercolor and printmaking papers.
The Joy of Painting on Channel 12 is made possible in part by a grant from Prairie Gardens in Champaign and Jeffrey Allen's in Springfield, Normal, and Peoria, offering a full-service frame shop, craft and art supplies, including Bob Ross products.
Next on Mystery.
They're going to get you because of that bloody car. And they can plant evidence. And they're out to get you.
Suspect's on the move. Andy's with his girlfriend. The lads reckon something's going down.
The conclusion to Prime Suspect.
Are you George Marlowe? My name is D.I. Muddyman, Southampton Road Police Station.
I don't know what's going on. All my mother's life, I haven't done a thing.
Watch Mystery tonight at 9. Sewing arts programs are made possible in part by a grant from Londa's Sewing, etc. in Champaign. Londa's is a complete sewing shop offering fine fabrics, Pfaff and Elna equipment, select notions, quilting supplies, and creative sewing classes.
To Art of Sewing. I'm Sue Hausman, and today our guest is our own Nina K. Donovan, Viking educator. Welcome, Nina K.
Well, thank you, Sue.
I'm so happy you're here, and you're going to be sharing something that I've done a lot of sewing through the years in, but you've really updated it to the 90s. Tell us about it.
Yes, what today we're going to be working on is action wear and swimwear, because a lot of people are kind of scared to work with the lycra knits and the cotton knits, but they're really easy to work with, and especially with today's sergers.
Oh, yeah.
It makes it so much easier.
You're right. It speeds it up. Well, I know you made my wonderful outfit. Actually, I sort of finished it up. We did it as a combined project, didn't we?
Yes.
And I thank you for it. And it's just so flattering with the vertical lines and everything. And I'm going to enjoy this very much.
Oh,
but
good.
This is an action wear of the actual washed rayon fabric.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be the lycra swimwear type fabric for one of these type sports suits.
Right, exactly. You can use a lot of the same techniques that you use in the knits, even just in regular clothing for children or for yourself, that you can, you know, just wear, just simple things.
Yes.
So you can definitely watch if you're not going to make some action wear for yourself.
Yes, that's where I've enjoyed them through the years, making pajamas and things for the children, and saved a lot of money sewing the swimwear and pajamas. Yes. Well, I know you brought a couple swimsuits that date back to your early days of sewing some action wear.
Yes, these were a couple of my first projects with sewing, where it was before, as you said, what did you call it?
Oh, I hate to even say that. It was B.O. before overlocks.
Yes, and it was done on a regular sewing machine where you just actually did the sewing. And these were made from a very expensive swimsuit used for pageants. Cost over about $100 or more for the swimsuit. And so my mother and I worked on making these for
You said, your mom, and you took apart one of those real expensive swimsuits and copied it.
Yes.
That's one of the advantages we have as sewers, isn't it? It's great. And then, so here's more updated version, right?
More update. This is a pattern that's available now. And this is with some of the new cracked ice swimwear.
Ooh, is this
And
neat?
this is fun, and you can actually use some of your own decorative stitching on the sewing machine, but combine it with using the serger, and you have a quick swimsuit there.
This is great. And I know there's a tremendous savings in sewing swimwear, isn't there?
Yes.
Because you're talking half a yard?
Half a yard, the 3/4 of a yard to make a swimsuit.
And only a couple hours of time?
Right. Very, very little time.
Shall I tell them my story?
Yes.
I was telling Nina Kay last night that basically when the kids were little, I made us all matching swimsuits, red, white, and blue, and we could find each other on the beach. And there were 4 children and my husband and I, and mine was a full bathing suit, and I cut them all out of 7/8 of a yard of swimwear fabric, I remember. So isn't that a riot?
Yes.
It was sort of a squeeze.
And also, too, you save those scraps to do color blocking and different things for other projects. So never throw away any lycra swimwear or activewear fabrics.
Good point. Now tell us about this. This is wonderful. We're out of swimwear.
This is into aerobic wear. This is just a little bodysuit, matching bodysuit with a sports bra and with the leggings to go with it. Very quick and easy to do. And the one thing I did add to this,
I noticed that. You did this little rose, didn't you?
right, with just an embroidery stitch done with the rayon thread, decorative rayon thread, and it's very easy to do. Just touch a button and it does it all for you.
That's great.
The one thing too, and I believe Rhonda mentioned in the show earlier on embroidery, where I did use a water-soluble stabilizer on top.
Okay.
To prevent some stretching. And actually, I even cut this out and then put it in the hoop, and it worked out fine.
Fit in fine, didn't it?
Just fine.
Great.
And one thing, too, I want to mention before I forget is when you're working with lighter weight fabrics, you may want to go ahead and put a backing or a lining, because like on this light pink for a sports bra, you would want to probably have an extra lining in there.
Okay, so what is the lining?
This I just used some other cotton lycra, just a white, or if you have a neutral color, there's also linings available
It's
too.
so soft.
Right, if you're working with a cotton lycra, I like just using another layer of cotton lycra.
Good, I can see that, especially on the top. And you didn't line the pants?
No, the
Okay,
pants
just the
stays
top.
fine.
Great,
Okay.
and I love this one. Just
kind of
darling.
coordinates
You can
with
wear
that.
these together, really.
Yes, or separate.
Great.
So you can have a mix and match wardrobe of action wear, especially if you teach aerobics and do things like it.
I was going to say, maybe I need to do more action, and then I'd need
There you go. And this is just a real simple action wear body tank, and just added some decorative stitches with using the embroidery rayon thread once again.
This was actually a striped fabric?
Yeah, it was a striped fabric with the on the bottom. And also, too, you can do, well, actually, Sue, this is where I was going to actually make it a chevron and cut it up the middle and do a chevron, but I did the chevron the wrong way, and I decided. So then I went to the...
I see.
See what I
Okay.
did? So you can do a lot of things with different prints, too, and stripes.
You know, that is something to point out to people, that we really want to keep V's pointing up toward our faces. And yes, okay,
Yes.
good point.
Want to minimize the bottom and accent the top.
Yes,
Like
okay.
this one. I think this is a perfect example.
Yes, it is.
This is done all on the overlock, and it's done with a safety serged edge, just using a 3-thread decorative stitch with a woolly nylon that has a little bit of metallic thread in it. Did 3-thread and then laid it over and stitched on top. Stitched it down.
So you serged in a panel. This fabric, this is 2 different fabrics.
2 different, as a matter of fact, this is a combination of the cotton lycra and the nylon lycra.
So you can combine those fabrics.
Right.
Good. That's excellent. Oh, and this is so cute. We have to share about this one.
Okay, our friend Donnie Hogeveen had made this little biker short outfit. She has biker shorts and then the sports bra, where she added a nice twin needle tuck in the front.
Darling.
It's really cute, and she had some scraps left over. So she made her goddaughter, Tara, a little matching set here.
Look at that. Isn't that darling? A little mini set. Okay.
And also, look, you can do some different designs with the twin needle, too, on the front.
Sure.
And then the next, Tara has a water baby. It's a doll. And so she, with the leftover scraps, she made a little water baby unitard.
Isn't that fun? And you know, I think I wanted to end with this one because it really is, these would be so fast.
Oh,
This whole thing is what, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and just quickly done, and a wonderful outfit for mom and daughter and doll.
Yes, perfect.
Isn't that fun?
Perfect.
Great. Well, what do we need to know to sew?
Well, first of all, we need to go ahead and select our fabrics. And there's lots of different fabrics and resources for fabrics nowadays. And so a couple of these are, one's the cotton lycra. And it's nice.
So it's a blend of cotton and lycra. Lycra is what gives it the stretch?
Right. It gives the elasticity. And then you have the nylon lycras, which are shinier, really good for swimwear too. And I prefer the cotton lycra more for action wear because it absorbs as we're working out, and it's more comfortable to the body. And then also too, there's a lot of different decorative action wear out there. With
wonderful prints and things. I know you had another one here too that just beautiful prints with all the metallics and things.
And also too with the biker, making biker outfits and different things. And the swimsuits are real popular with the mesh at the top.
I know, I said, boy, this would make some swimsuit, and then you told me you didn't use it for the whole thing.
No, just the top, just the top.
Okay, the top?
Well, not the top completely.
Oh, okay.
Like if you
above the breast area. Okay,
yes.
I got it. Yeah, but that's great because it would give you a lot of breathing too in biker outfits if you had that as a side panel or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now we want to just talk about too the different types of elastics.
All right.
Because the one elastics that I like working with, and if you're working with swimwear, you definitely want to make sure that it's elastic that is made specifically for swimwear. Because if you don't, as you were talking about earlier, you might have a little bit of a problem.
Yes, they don't zap. When they get wet, they stretch out and don't come back, and so you could get out of the water and your whole suit would be just totally bleh.
It may fall off, and that would not be good.
That would be terrible. So you be sure this elastic is intended for swimwear use and use in chlorine water.
So it's called
swimwear elastic.
And this I like using. It's 3/8 inch cotton elastic. Has a nice stretch to it, and it's really available.
Great.
And then we have available is a rubber elastic. And it has a nice stretch and really good for swimwear too.
I haven't used this much because it isn't as comfortable against the body, but I guess I like the cotton and
well, most of the time it's encased anyway.
That's true. You see that a lot in ready-made, don't you?
Yes. And then the other type of elastic is a clear elastic. Now this has a lot of stretch to it, but I don't suggest it to put it in someplace like around the leg area if you're doing swimsuit or a bodysuit, because it has almost too much stretch and doesn't give you enough to go around the
It isn't as stable.
Right, and it could tend to ride up some. But it works great around the neckline and around the armhole. And then for your wider elastic, this felt back elastic, which is good, which would be next to your body, like if you were doing a bra underneath there, or also for in the waistbands and the biker shorts.
Okay. So good quality elastic, I think, is really important.
Very important.
And something that will withstand it. Okay, what's next?
The next thing we need to do is select patterns, and there's several different patterns out in the market.
I know that's one thing that sometimes holds people back from doing swimwear, is that they don't know if they can find what they're going to need. And there really are a lot of sources for patterns and for books and for the different materials that they need, and even down to the findings, like the little bra hooks and things. So they don't need to hold back. They just need to research a little bit and do a little shopping, and they'll be able to make swimwear just like ready-made.
Yes,
that's the
and
thing.
It's very much available now.
And save a lot.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we would select a pattern suitable for swimwear. We're going to talk about a swimsuit today, right?
Well, actually, it's a bodysuit, just a simple bodysuit that we're going to be working on. That way we don't have to worry about sewing and lining. And I like working with multi-size patterns. And why I like working with multi-size patterns, because I don't know about you, Sue. My top is not the same size as my bottom, and I'm not a perfect size pattern. So I may be one size on top and the other size on bottom. So after you select a pattern, and then you would want to go ahead and take your measurements. And so your main measurement, or the first measurement you'd want to take, would be at your bust.
Okay. This is to know what size to cut out.
Size to cut out. Then you would measure your waist.
And not over your action suit.
No, and not over.
Right.
Yes. Go around the waist. And then you'd want to go ahead and measure.
And we won't look at that.
We won't look.
No,
we would go around the hip area, the fullest part of our hip area. Now as we go, and then the next measurement we'd want to take is where it's a whole body measurement, and we'd start from the hollow part of our neck.
Okay.
And then we'd go ahead and place it right there.
All right, and then this part would come down through the crotch and up to the bone? Is that right?
To the main bone in the back of the neck.
Okay.
And that's with a whole body measurement. And that's a very important measurement to have.
Yes, particularly one-piece bodysuits and swimwear. That's where I always have a problem because I'm very long-waisted even though I'm short.
Right.
So great.
So it's very important to have that.
So once we've taken our measurements,
then we're going ahead and select our size. Now for me, I went ahead and determined my size by, I know that I'm a 36 up here at the top, and I'll go ahead and highlight this to show you how easy it is to work with multi-size patterns. Then bring it down to almost a 34 at the waist because I have trouble with being too big around the waist area, but then back down to the 36 on the front. Now, on the back side of me, I know the back side's fuller.
You don't have to tell us, but just tell us what you do.
If I was working just on the back one, I even go clear on out to a larger size. And it's really nice, so it doesn't, ride up, and it fits nicely around that. Also, too, you may want to go with a higher leg cut. Okay, so if you wanted that French cut leg, you could actually pin this in and do that. Right.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Now, at that point,
we need to make, you want to make a full-size pattern? Is
yes,
that what you
we want
said?
to make a full-size pattern. And there's two things you can do. You can actually go ahead and fuse on a stabilizer.
Okay, I know that's what we do a lot.
Right.
We just fuse on a piece of stabilizer and cut it out bigger.
Right.
It's great.
Or you can also use a tracing fabric, which is kind of nice because it doesn't slip around onto your fabric.
So everybody would do it their own way.
Right.
And why do we cut a single pattern piece?
It's much easier to lay your fabric out a single layer and to cut around than it is trying to fold it, get it on grain, and trying to cut around and going through the 2 layers. It's
more accurate with the stretchy stuff.
More accurate with that. Yeah. So at this point...
Now, one thing we haven't talked about is that the Lycra gives these fabrics a lot of stretch.
Yes, and we need to determine on the pattern, if you go ahead and look, because you want the greatest stretch to go around, so we need to determine which way to lay the pattern out.
Now, we had a ruler over here. I think it's really interesting to show them on some of these action wear fabrics. Action wear and swimwear fabrics usually on the crosswise will stretch almost to twice their size.
Right.
And that's important.
Yes, it is.
Because you won't pull these suits on.
So, for example, see how much it stretches? And that's on the cross.
That's with the cross grain.
Cross grain. And with cotton lycras, you're going to have a tendency a little bit more stretch than you would with your Lycra nylons, and then see the stretch. So we definitely, if we were laying this piece out, we'd want the most stretch to go this way.
So we have stretch in both directions on swimwear and action wear fabrics, but we want to put the most stretch on the cross grain, around the body.
Around the body. Okay. So now that with just a single layer on this, we would go ahead and lay this out and use I like using a rotary cutter and cutting this out.
I do too.
And then you would just simply press down. We want to move this a little bit forward. Press down and just start cutting.
We have this double, so we probably won't cut this today. We don't need 2 suits. But,
And one thing too, Sue, you want to remember is always cut the notches outward.
Good point.
That's really hard for me to remember because I always kind of just clip in since we're doing 1/4 inch seams. We definitely need to always cut that out.
Yes, that is one thing to check your pattern. A lot of these patterns are 1/4 inch seams only, and boy, you're going to have a problem if you sew them with 5/8.
Yes, you're going to be a little bit more snug on you.
So we don't want to be
stretches, Sue, so it may not be too much of a problem.
This is true.
Yeah.
Okay,
so ready to go start sewing.
We're ready to go sew, and that's great, Nina Kay, because once we have our swimwear cut out, then we would move to our serger, or hopefully, or our sewing machine, and serge it. So what do we need to know now?
Well, the first thing you need to do is decide how you really want to finish it. Well, if you have available a 4-thread serger, let's go ahead and we'll show the different seam finishes that you can select from. I prefer actually selecting a 4-thread serge edge. It has a nice
and this, fold that open a minute so they can see that actually is
the seam. Right. I tried. And then if you do not have a 4-thread, you can use a 3-thread serger. Okay. And then go to a sewing machine and use a stretch stitch as with a reinforced stitch. And then you can also do, if you do not have a serger, you can use a seam overcast onto your sewing machine. Real quick, I'd like to show that.
Show that, because I think some folks don't have a serger yet, and so they might want an option to use on their sewing machine.
Okay, I'm going to touch seam overcast and for medium weight stretch fabric. And it's also telling me to bring up my presser foot pressure. So therefore the presser foot is not pushing down onto.
That's a really good point. On the stretchy fabrics, we don't want as much presser foot pressure, or they'll tend to kind of wave as you sew.
Right. And then you would go back and then trim your seam allowance.
Okay, so once we'd sewn that, we'd trim off the excess. Show how that has a lot of stretch to it too, really. So that wouldn't give inside our suits.
Right.
And years ago, that is what I used before I had a serger.
Right. And you were lucky to actually have a stretch stitch on your sewing machine, because some do not have. So if you don't, you can use a regular, like a lightning stitch, or you can also use a longer straight stitch and then use a zigzag stitch to finish the edge for you.
Okay, so there are a couple of options for those that don't have sergers. Well, let's sew a seam with our 3/4 thread serge, which would be our preference.
Right. So the first thing you'd want to, if you're working on a bodysuit, the first thing we'd do is go ahead and serge your shoulder straps. Now I have this pinned here, but it's very important if you're working on the serger that, what do you do, Sue?
You don't sew over pins.
Exactly. We don't want to have a neck in that.
A lot of times people that feel they need pins could pin crosswise next to the edge, and that would help them.
And so there's a really quick 4-thread serged edge.
Okay, that's good.
And then we go ahead and serge the side seams and the crotch seam. The next thing we want to go ahead and do is then to put
So in other words,
elastic.
let's just review that. We've actually sewn the shoulder seams, the side seams, and the crotch seams. So we have our suit done virtually, except for elastic.
Yes.
Great. So we can see how fast this goes.
Yes, very quickly. So the next thing we would want to do is put in our elastic. So we take our piece of elastic, and it's usually a 3/8" elastic.
And the pattern will give you the length that needs
the
to be
length,
usually?
Yes, it just tells you the length according to the size. Then fold over approximately a 1/2 inch.
Or lap over.
Lap over 1/2 inch, and then use your sewing machine to sew using either a reinforced straight stitch or a 3-step zigzag over that area. Then you would quarter it and fold it in half, and once again, and I like using just a marking pin, if you can see inside there, where I've used
a little purple marker. You're going to have to make this fast because this is going to disappear, right?
Right.
Forces you to finish it today.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I've already went ahead and pinned this into the armhole sleeve at this point.
So you actually marked quarters on the armhole of the suit, and now you're going to match the quarter markings, and pin that in there.
Pin that in.
All right.
Now keep in mind too that not always the underarm seam and the shoulder seam are always a halfway mark. You know,
right. They may be off a little bit.
Off a little bit. So go ahead and start serging.
I'm seeing that there really won't be a whole lot of stretch to this part.
No, you really don't want to use the elastic to hug the suit into you. You want it just to kind of lay there to give it some body.
To keep it against your body?
Right, to kind of just hug in just a little bit. Now, I like having a little bit of the fabric be trimmed, just a hair, just to know that I get that elastic covered.
So you're actually stitching with the elastic on the top.
Elastic on top, fabric on the bottom.
And you're serging over the elastic, stretching it just enough that you really don't even have to stretch it much, do you? It sort of eases in. You know, this is where if I have fabric to ease in, I engage my differential feed slightly toward 2, and it actually eases the fabric in for me.
For your regular sewing. You really...
Well, even for my elastic
you do this. Very easy to do. It's just serge all the way around. Now, too, I want you to notice what type of thread I'm working with right now.
Okay.
I'm working with a woolly nylon thread.
All right.
And why I suggest the woolly nylon is that
I think we've probably gone far enough because we really want to move on and show a few other things. We do want to show how we would then finish that, but let's show. There's the underside, or actually the right side, and there's the elastic serged in place. That's one of your quarter marks, right?
Yes.
Okay. And now how do we finish this?
The next step would be just to simply fold it in, and then
fold it to the wrong side.
The wrong side in, and then use a twin needle just a regular twin. You can either use a stretch twin needle.
On this, I would definitely use a stretch twin needle. No question. No question.
Then,
yeah, and I think people need to know the difference. If they have a red top on them, they're not a stretch.
Right.
If they have a blue top on them, they're stretch. Yeah. And because sometimes you take them out of the machine. And the 4.0 is nice for this, right?
Yes, 4.0 or 2.5 is real nice too. And just top stitch all the way around.
Great. And for regular sewing, use a stretch needle?
Yes, a 90 stretch needle in your regular sewing machine. And then we were talking about the thread too. The woolly nylon has a lot of stretch to it. If you can look at it, it's an untwisted thread. And then when it's pulled, it pulls straight. So that gives more stretch too in the swimsuit.
Yes, and it's soft against your body.
Yes.
And of course, one thing, you probably will reduce your tensions overall when you use woolly nylon thread. So back down the numbers, one number to start and even a little more sometimes on your serger. Well, good. So really, one little hint on the leg openings. We don't quarter the leg openings.
Right.
Can you tell us what we do on the leg openings?
On the leg openings, you would have your notch. You have a couple of notches in that area. And on most patterns, they'll tell you in a certain area that you are going to like measure, have like a marking like that's less, and you're going to really stretch and kind of pull that fabric in more, and you're not going to stretch in the front part of the leg. That's going to be smooth in there.
Right, and I think that makes sense. The rule is rather to leave it one-to-one, not stretching in the front of the leg, but in the back of the leg under the seat to actually be stretching the elastic so that it hugs under your seat, which we would definitely want, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, very nice, Nina Kay. And I know that a lot of these techniques, and particularly these elastic techniques, can help people make swimwear and can help people make garments for their children and PJs and things, but I know you brought us a really fun, quick project, one that you're going to all really enjoy. So tell us about that.
The quick project for today is going to be, since we're going to the gym or we're out walking or we've been to the pool, it's always kind of nice to have our water bottle. And it's really big to be having our own water bottle to drink water with, and so something to carry it in and just throw it over your shoulder there. And so we can simply take some of the cotton mesh fabric and lay this down.
So this actually is what's going to ultimately wrap around the bottle.
Right.
Okay.
At that point, then we would take a strip of the nylon type fabric, like used for the
left
flags.
over from something.
Yeah, hopefully flags or so forth.
And how cute this is going to match your actionwear outfit.
Yes, and then you can also add your name or something like that. Then you would take some webbing.
All right.
You would lay the webbing down on top. At this point, you would start down just a ways.
I say, don't sew up at the top yet, because you're going to put a casing here
right
ultimately. Okay.
So we'll go ahead and use your edge joining foot and just top stitch both this your strip down of nylon and then also top stitch down your webbing down to leaving about 2 inches from the bottom.
So just first stitch it from about here to here so that you can still work with the top and the bottom.
Right.
All right.
Then the next thing you would do would be fold it over and do a seam just a little ways on this part.
Okay.
Okay, and then...
But wrong side out.
But wrong side out,
wrong
yes.
side's the other.
Wrong, right. Then run a basting thread. Yes, and we run a basting thread all the way around and draw it up. And if you could see, that's making the bottom.
So you gather the bottom of this into so that it fits under, and then just continue your webbing around the bottom?
Around the bottom, and then go ahead and continue your seam on the outside because we want a clean finish on the inside, and this webbing, all it's going to do is just cover right up the top.
Covers right over the seam, but don't sew it all the way up yet.
No, not all the way up. You would leave, and also this little placket you would want to tack down with a little zigzag stitch, and then you were going to fold it down.
And do a little
casing.
That's great, and that looks a little like this then, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, I see that, and you have a little cord and a little stop, and this could be hung up then. You notice you've got some neat findings here that make it look very ready-made, don't they?
Yes.
And you could carry it with you on your bike or on your neck or to your group. And look at this. This is so cute. It says Sport Bottle.
Bottle, yeah.
Well, Nina Kay, have you enjoyed doing this?
Yes, it has. It's been lots of fun, and I'm ready to get back to the gym.
Yeah, you're ready to get back
Yes,
to the gym.
yes.
Yes, Nina Kay is a real action person, and so she's going to put these action wear garments to good use. Nina Kay, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate that. And until next time, I'm going to say to all of you, get into some action and happy sewing.
A book of ideas and tips from the Art of Sewing Series 600, including a special catalog offer from Fabulous Furs, is available for $13.95. To order your copy, call 1-800-358-0001 or send your check or money order to The Art of Sewing, Book 6, 11760 Peoria Road, Cleveland, Ohio, 44111.
Sewing arts programs are made possible in part by a grant from Londa's Sewing Etc. in Champaign. Londa's is a complete sewing shop offering fine fabrics, Pfaff and Elna equipment, select notions, quilting supplies, and creative sewing classes.
When it comes to island paradises, Palau has it all. Sun, surf, warm breezes. But there's more than one snake at the core of this Eden. Its jungle trees bleed poisonous sap, and below the tranquil surface, its landlocked sea boils with jellyfish and deadly predators. They're all part of the lost world of the Medusa, next time on Nature.
Join us for Nature Sunday night at 7.
The people who give the money to make Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood are the people who contribute to this and other public television stations, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and the Sears Roebuck.
So we've tried with the antiques and reproduction to really recreate that feel.
The presidential suite was created from the former library. The 25-foot ceilings with exposed oak beams and the massive stone fireplace remain just as they were when Mrs. Armstrong built Greystone. Only the jacuzzi bath and modern plumbing have been added. Lucy Armstrong's passions for gardening, entertaining, and cooking can still be seen throughout her house.
There were 4 kitchens in this house, and in fact where the Firestone room is now, that was her canning and pickling kitchen. And when I first saw that room, I knew that we needed to have it as a guest room, but to preserve the historical integrity and charm of the room, I decided to leave the about 10-foot long wood stove we left. Bricks coming out for the first 4 feet to protect against sparks coming out, we left, and the rest of the floor was hardwood so that guests step in and they know there's a story to this room.
Every room in the Greystone mansion has a story. This gorgeous home is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It's full of pleasures. You can sit back in a wicker chair on the sun porch or just play checkers in the study. You'll find that simplicity becomes luxury at the Greystone Inn.
We've tried to sort of take you back to 1915 with some of those traditions such as afternoon tea or reaching back in the past for traditions, because I believe that today, you know, people will sort of pick up the phone and sometimes it's the voicemail instead of a human being, and they're dealing with computers constantly in our high-tech society. The hammock, the swing, the whole way of our dealing with people and relating to people here is just to sort of slow down. So this is sort of a time to sort of step back to some of those traditions, to sort of unwind.
If you need to unwind, look at this. Your own working fireplace in your room and a private balcony overlooking the lake. You'll find Greystone's mountain setting makes it so easy to leave the world behind.
I mean, it is big time beautiful over there, and the mountain biking is a great way to see it. And it's
Tim's always willing to help you plan your daily activities, even before breakfast. For guests, part of unwinding is exploring the mountains.
The canoe bit sound like a possibility?
Hey, it sounds like a lot of fun.
Here in the lakeside dining room, guests enjoy a very leisurely breakfast. The most popular dish this morning is the Country Eggs Benedict.
Hi, my name is Chef McDonald. I'm here at the Greystone Inn with you here today. What we're doing today is one of our specialty items that we do for breakfast, which is a Country Eggs Benedict. What makes it Country Eggs Benedict is that we use a country ham versus Canadian bacon, which to us gives a better flavor and all that, and us being a country inn. Right here we have our English muffin and our country ham. What we're going to do is make our hollandaise sauce right now, which we have here separated 8 egg yolks, which we will add to a Cuisinart to prepare this. Now here I've already got some clarified butter, which we heat up to about 170 degrees. Now we need to add our lemon juice and our cayenne pepper to this for flavoring, which we will squeeze this in here. This makes it a lot easier for you to do at home versus using a double boiler and a stainless steel bowl and whipping this by hand. This saves you a lot of time and it's less messy. So we got that. We'll add our cayenne pepper. Now we will make our hollandaise sauce. But you want to slowly add this butter. It's at 170 degrees. If you pour it in too fast, it will separate and turn back to butter. So what I'm going to do is just slowly add it in to the egg yolks. The butter at 170 degrees is hot enough to cook your eggs. Now our sauce is done. Okay, now we can go over here and begin to poach our eggs. Which wet over here, I already have me some water boiling. What we like to do is put just a small shot of the white vinegar, as I was talking about earlier, to help cook the egg a little bit faster and hold it together. Now these eggs, you just want to cook them in however you like your eggs. If you like them well done, if you like them soft, just let them cook there and just scrape them off the bottom once it starts to go. And one thing that's important is that you want your water boiling, simmering somewhat. Because if your water's not hot enough and it's just going to lay there, it's going to stick to the bottom, and you will break your eggs. So here we got our 2 poached eggs, which we're going to put on our Eggs Benedict. Now we're ready for the sauce. Hit it with a little paprika for a little bit of garnish. And there you have the Country Egg Benedicts.
You don't have to worry about extra calories at the Greystone because there are plenty of ways to burn those wonderful calories here in this outdoor paradise. Ski boats, sailboats, and canoes are all waiting for you at the dock. If you like hiking mountain trails, Don't forget your picnic basket. With over 250 waterfalls in the area, you'll find the perfect spot for lunch.
We do find that our guests relax a lot when they come here. Many plan to play golf and tennis and hike and do all the water sports, and some do. Others say, well, it all sounds good, but I'm enjoying just reading my book, sitting here on my rocker, on the sun porch. Well, when's tea time? I think I'm ready. And they just completely let down from the stress of daily life.
High tea is served every afternoon on the sun porch. You'll find beautifully prepared pastries, canapes, and fruit. You'll love them all, but save room for a glass of champagne. The party boat leaves the dock promptly at 5 o'clock.
You know, we have this magnificently beautiful lake that this is something that our guests ought to have the opportunity to enjoy. So we, every day, most days, I'll be the captain, and many days Boo Boo will be hosting with me. We actually are in the most historic spot here at Lake Toxaway. In 1903 was built the 250-room, 6-story tall Toxaway Inn, one of 2 or 3 of the finest hotels in the United States. Unfortunately, it only had a 13-year life because in 1916, that flood broke the dam, the Toxaway Inn never reopened, and for the next 45 years, there was no water in the lake. And then rebuilt in 1961.
Lake Toxaway is the largest privately owned lake in North Carolina. There are over 640 acres of cool, clear mountain water.
To be enjoying your favorite beverage with the fresh air, putting around the lake with the spectacular mountain lake scenery, learning something about the history that we share with them, or seeing the beautiful homes on the lake is not a bad day to spend 5 to 6 each day.
This cruise is always popular with everyone, including the innkeepers, who really value their time with the guests.
Boo Boo and I are very honored to have you as our guest at the Greystone Inn, and we would like to propose a toast to you. Here's to you. Here,
Thank
here.
you for coming.
Thank you.
Newlyweds and couples celebrating anniversaries visit Greystone year after year. It is definitely a romantic setting.
I know these folks are celebrating their first anniversary, their first day. They were married yesterday. So look, here's to your
Congratulations.
marriage, and we hope that you can celebrate your 50th anniversary here at the Greystone Inn. Here's to you. Here, here.
Well, I think the setting is romantic, just with the mountains, having the lake, seeing the sunrise and sunset over the mountains with the beautiful water there, and seeing the layered look of the mountains in the distance. It is a beautiful setting just naturally. But then, when you're in a historic property, lots of little nooks and crannies, I think the mansion itself lends itself to romance. And then, of course, the fine dining experience. I'm going back to that again, but you know, with the candlelight, a relaxed 6-course gourmet dinner, no one has to rush, looking over on the moonlight, on the water, with the mountains in the background. That's pretty hard to beat for romance, I think.
And just as the sun is setting behind the mountains of Lake Toxaway, Chef McDonald is preparing tonight's gourmet meal.
Okay, one of my favorite appetizers for tonight is what we call the wild mushroom trio. And what we have here is a shiitake mushroom, a button mushroom, and a wild morel mushroom soaked in red wine. And what we'll do first here is go ahead and slice these things up, get them ready to go in the pan. This is real light, it's low cholesterol, which most people want to hear. It's a really great appetizer. It's not real difficult to make. Take a few of these morel mushrooms here. Here's a little, let's do this first. Put a little bit of fresh chopped garlic in this. Put a little bit of sugar to take the bitterness out of the red wine that we're going to put in this. Just a little bit of Worcestershire. Put our chopped tomatoes in here. and our red wine. We'll soak this down and then we'll saute this down together. First we'll get our shallots in here. And we're just going to lightly saute this down to where it cooks down and turns into a paste here. Okay, after 3 to 5 minutes our mushrooms are done here. It's usually about how long it takes to cook these. They're ready for our phyllo dough, which we will make some triangles here. You can use whatever type of mushrooms or whatever your favorites are. This is a great appetizer. We're going to spray this down just a little bit as we go. Just go from end to end. And our triangle is ready. I'm going to take a pie pan here, spray it down so it doesn't stick, and then spray it, moisten this down. We are ready for the oven. We'll take this over here, put it in the oven, which you want to let this bake for about 5 minutes till it's a light golden brown. All we have here is on the sauce is a reduction of fresh chopped tomatoes with shallots, garlic, and dillweed, and sour cream at the end, and just let it cook till your product comes out looking like this. You can even do this as an hors d'oeuvre in a miniature size for your cocktail parties or something like that. It's light, it's healthy, it's good. Next, we're fixing to do a plantation quail for this evening's meal. We normally do 3 different entrees nightly. We do a beef, a fowl, and a seafood on a nightly basis, and we change our menus out nightly. Tonight, the one we picked out here is going to be the plantation quail, which I have a semi-boneless quail here, which all we're going to do is take off the legs here and the wings. Here, you just pull your knife to the side and pull the leg joint to the side and cut it, same on the wings. Get as close to the bone as you can so you don't lose any meat. You can always marinate your legs and your wings also and use them as an hors d'oeuvre. And then we're going to place them in a bowl, and then we're going to make our marinade. And when you marinate on these quail here, it's probably best to let your marinade sit for about 4 to 5 hours before you're getting ready to use these. That way they can absorb all the flavoring. Now on the marinade, what I have here is about 1 tablespoon of oregano leaves, 2 tablespoons of tarragon leaves, 1 tablespoon of ground ginger, about 1/3 of a cup of raspberry red wine vinegar, which if you don't have access to this, red wine vinegar works just as well. It's about 1 tablespoon of chopped garlic, 2 tablespoons of coarse ground black pepper, 2 tablespoons of pickling spice, and then here I have 1½ cups of olive oil. I'm going to place the quail in there, stir this up just a little bit and get it all blended in real good. And we'll let this sit normally for 4 to 5 hours and let it absorb all the flavoring. Now when it's done, we're going to grill this, which I preferably like to grill it, but you can saute it or grill it however you like it. And it generally takes 2 to 3 minutes according to how hot your grill is. Okay, here we're going to grill it, and I like to grill most of our items that we do here. There again, we're sticking to the low cal and all by staying away from the butters to saute it in. Generally takes anywhere between 3 to 4 minutes to cook this. Slightly mark it on one side. If you want to put marks on it, turn it a little bit. Get some nice little marks on there. Okay, now that the quail medallions are done, this is one of our presentations of the plantation quail. Lay them on toast points here we try to serve a lot of baby vegetables. And the sauce I'm going to put on this is a basic orange sauce, which is basically just chicken stock with a little bit of red currant jelly and orange marmalade. And I tighten it with cornstarch versus roux because I try to stay away from the flour and the butter. This is one of our specialty items, the plantation quail with the orange sauce. We're finishing off tonight with the dessert, which we're going to do a deep dish buttermilk, which is one of our guests' favorite desserts. We get a lot of compliments on this one. What we're going to start off with is 8 whole eggs, and we're going to take 1 pound of softened cream cheese. We'll mix all this right up in a bowl right here. Next, we're going to add 2 cups of buttermilk. Next, we're going to add 3 cups of sugar. 1 cup of heavy cream. 1 cup of sour cream. And then we'll add 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. And we'll mix all this up real good. I'll start it off with this wire whip. And I'm going to go to a KitchenAid magic wand, what they call a wand, to try to smooth all the lumps out of the cream cheese so we got a nice smooth base. And we'll add it to a basic graham cracker crumb. Which any graham cracker crumb will work on this. This is kind of a different and unique type of cheesecake using the buttermilk. Some people are a little bit scared of the name buttermilk, but actually the buttermilk's not real overpowering. Gives it kind of a unique taste. Now we're going to take this wand here and see if we can't knock out some of these lumps. Try to smooth it out. This pie generally takes about 35 to 40 minutes to bake. Once you get it done, just pour it into your shell. Kind of slowly so you don't disturb or break up your graham cracker shell. And we will place it in the oven at 350 degrees, anywhere between 30 to 40 minutes. After your cake is done, finished baking between 30 to 40 minutes in the oven, we'll set it out here on the table here after it's chilled down somewhat, and then we'll remove the spring form on this. Before we decide to cut this, we'll go ahead and make the fruit sauce for this. This is what we call branded fruit. I got 2 pints of strawberries here, about 2 pints, quarts, blueberries. We're going to mash these up with our hands. And we're going to add 1/2 pound of powdered sugar and 2 shots of brandy to this. And then we'll mix this up some more. It's best to let this sit for at least an hour before you decide to use it. That way the sugar will break down, turn into a more clearer sauce for you, and the brandy gets to soak into the berries. Okay, after your berries have done soaked for 20 minutes or so, this gave you a chance for the powdered sugar to break down and the brandy to soak in. Go ahead and top your cake off, but suggestions on this, well, I wouldn't top it off until about 10 minutes before serving time so that your cake doesn't get all soggy on you. And I hope y'all come see us at the Greystone Inn.
Deep dish buttermilk pie and plantation quail are among the favorite dishes here. The 6-course menu changes every evening. And for his specialties, Chef McDonald uses many local delicacies, including native North Carolina trout and pheasant, as well as quail. Curtis Garden's specialty is entertaining guests during dinner.
Unforgettable, that's what you are. Unforgettable, though near or far. Like a song of love that clings to me, how thoughts of you does things to me. Never before has someone meant more. unforgettable too.
The music, the food, the setting, all contribute to a glowing, perfect end to a perfect day. A day, perhaps, like those enjoyed by Mrs. Lucy Armstrong's guests in that simpler time, almost a century ago.
But what we wanted to do is sort of to preserve the kind of hospitality and feeling that she would have had, because she loved to entertain and have guests in her home. And she was a very educated and well-traveled person. She'd been educated in Europe. She traveled all over the world many times, but she loved this area which she called her Sapphire Country, which was the name that the area went by back then. And she made the statement, I saw an article in the newspapers in 1960 that quoted her, and she says, "I've traveled around the world many times, but my favorite spot in the whole world is my Sapphire Country."
We're in this beautiful setting with guests who are here having a fun time on their vacation. I feel like I'm on a perpetual vacation. We just have a great time.
Most recipes from this series are contained in the In Country USA and Innkeeper's Collection cookbooks. More than 500 superb recipes from the private files of America's finest inns. To order either one or both by credit card for only $16.95 plus $4.95 postage for each book, call 1-800-542-2403 now. Or send your check for $21.90 and tell us which book you wish. Write Cookbook, 343 Raintree, Advance, North Carolina 27006.
On the next evening at Pops, legendary jazz singer Tony Bennett joins his good friend, composer Michel Legrand.
How do you lose yourself to someone when I come home to you?
That's next time on Evening at Pops.
When it comes to island paradises, Palau has it all. Sun, surf, warm breezes. But there's more than one snake at the core of this Eden. Its jungle trees bleed poisonous sap, and below the tranquil surface, its landlocked sea boils with jellyfish and deadly predators. They're all part of the lost world of the Medusa, next time on Nature.
Sunday night at 7 on Channel 47.
Next time on Masterpiece Theater.
Get down!
Richard Sharp must choose between duty and love.
You did your duty. Now I must do mine. My men are all crack shots. They never miss. You did damn well, Sharp.
Sharp's Rifles. Next time on Masterpiece Theater.
Sunday night at 8 on Channel 47. Viewer-supported television for Central Illinois. You're watching Channel 47, WTVP, Peoria. Local broadcast of Charlie Rose is made possible in part by Les B. Cohen.
Major funding for Charlie Rose is
Welcome to Kay Wood's Strip Quilting Program. This is Kay's 10th series and is full of creative new techniques to make your quilting easier, faster, and more accurate. In this series, you'll learn how to design your own quilt patterns using basic strip piecing techniques. Kay will show you the basics of proper cutting and choosing fabric, as well as applying the finishing touches. So sit back and enjoy the next half hour with Kay Wood, America's favorite quilting teacher.
Welcome back to Strip Quilting. If you've been with us the last few programs, you know that we're working on designing quilts. We're taking basic shapes, giving you a few designs, and hopefully you'll take it from there and design your own. Let's take a look at what we've been giving you to work with. For the whole series, I've selected 10 different fabrics. 5 from the pink range, and I've sewn them together in strips from dark to light. And 5 fabrics in the teal green range, going again from dark to light. Each of these strips was cut 2 inches wide and then sewn together and pressed. And from there on, we just cut them into different shapes and begin our design process. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a design that I've called Tumbling Stars. And if you take a look at it, you can see the different stars. And if you look at it long enough, the stars will turn into tumbling blocks, and you'll see the tumbling blocks or baby blocks in the quilt. It's a fun quilt to do, and it's relatively easy. So let me just show you how we can make it easy. We're going to work with some diamond shapes from the 2 colors that we've selected, the 2 color combinations. And we need to cut 15 from the pink fabrics and 15 from the green to do the tumbling stars. Of course, if you design your own, you might come up with a different number. But for this basic outline shape of the tumbling stars, you are going to need a total of 30 diamonds. All right, let's show you how to cut those. From each of the strips, we're going to be cutting 60-degree diamonds. And for that, we're going to use the Star Maker 6. Let me just, there, we can work this way, and we put the bottom of the Star Maker 6 right on the bottom of the strip of fabric. And this will eliminate the need for the templates you might need to make these kinds of designs. All right, we've got the triangle on the bottom of the strip, and we're going to cut our first angle. Okay, so that gives us the perfect angle that we need for these stars, which are actually 6-pointed stars. Now we need to know how to measure it so that we get our diamond the correct shape. Basically, what we're aiming at is to have a perfect diamond. So you could just fold it this way, but I've found in teaching my classes around the country that that doesn't allow for enough accuracy. So what we're going to do is combine a ruler with a triangle to give you the exact measurement. So what I need to do now is just disregard the angle I've just cut and measure the combination strip from the top to the bottom. And mine is 8 inches. So what we need to do is to cut 8 inches, but that's going to be diagonally from the cut edge to the next cut edge. That has to be 8 inches. So by using the ruler, I can place the 8-inch line of the ruler right on the first, that diagonal cut edge that I made. Just move it up a little bit. That will give us the distance. The triangle is going to give us the correct angle. So we butt that right up against the ruler. Make sure it's lined up with the bottom of the strip. Then remove the ruler and cut our diamond shape. And as I said, we needed 15 of the pink and 15 of the green to do our project. All right, after you have those cut, we have to study how the star looks, because I think you'll find it's much easier to put together than it looks. So I have some of my, what I call half stars put together. It's 3 points of a 6-pointed star. And I'm going to go to the design board and place these in position so you can see an easy way to piece these. All right, at the very top, we have a half star made from the 3 points are made from the green. Then as we follow around, we have, over here we have a 3 or a half star. Let's call them a half star. 3 points with the dark pink coming to the center. Here we had the dark green coming to the center. And let's go around, and we have another pink one that will be put here, another half star again. And this one also has the dark pinks coming into the very center. As we follow around, we have a green. Oh, let's see, this should have been a light green. Let's change that. We would have had a completely different design. All right, let's put the light green up here. When I talk about the light green, that's the color coming into the center. Then we have a dark green down here, a half star. We have another dark green here. And then we have our pink, our light pink at the very bottom. Again, these are all half stars or 3 points of a star. Now we have two other half stars that we have to put in. The first one is the first one that we've done with 2 colors. We have 2 greens and a pink. And this will go right here in our design. And we have another half star to put here. But first we need to go and sew that star together to show you how to get our 3 points. So let's go to the sewing machine and do that. This particular star point is made from 3 pinks, or 2 pinks, excuse me, and 1 green. And so we have these 3. And it's made this way, and then the green is this way. So this is the way this half star will be made. So I'm going to sew 2 of those points together by just putting them right sides together. We have seam allowances going down, and the easiest way to sew them is with those seam allowances towards us. So we'll just sew them with the pink on top so the seam allowances will go down. We're matching the edge. And we're starting exactly at the edge of the fabric and sewing to the other edge. We don't leave anything for seam allowances. All right, I'm just going to sew a little bit and then hold the end points even and keep the edges of the fabric or the points of our star even, and let the machine feed the fabric through. Okay, here we have 2 of our points put together, and we need to press before we go on and sew the other point on. All right, I'm going to sew, or press, excuse me, toward the pink. Last week, if you were with us, we talked about when we have just 1 strip of fabric joining another one with lots of seams, we always try and press toward the fabric that doesn't have any seams crossing it to just reduce the bulk. So I'm going to press from the right side, just put my iron down on the green, lift the pink up, and just bring my iron across and roll the fabric so my seam allowance will go toward the pink. Now let's sew our other point on. Okay, this will go this way, and this one will go this way over here. Okay, so we'll turn this over. Again, we want to sew with the seam allowances going towards us, so this point I'm going to sew this way. Now, you need to keep the points of the stars even. See, I have these 2 points pressed that way, and the tip of this pink one has to be even with those points. So we'll sew right from there. Right from the edge. Come down here and put the ends of the star points together. Line up the edges of the fabric. And sew right to the end. All right, let's go and press this piece. Now, remember we talked about how to press the first one. Now, because this is a star point, and we're going to sew the other points of the star to it, we're going to change that a little bit, because when we match our center point of our star, which is going to be right here, it's much easier to do that if our seam allowances go away from that center. Okay? So even though there's a little bit more bulk there, it does make it easier later on. So we'll press the seam allowances toward the outside points is what it amounts to. That way when we join our points, we have an open seam or a seam pressed this way, so we know exactly where to match. Let's take this piece now and put it into position in our star. Okay, it goes right there. Now we have 6 diamonds still left to go, and these will have to be set in, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But let's put them into place so we can see how the design forms. There will be 3 green ones and 3 pink ones, and they go into position like this. As you will notice, they complete this star. Each of our stars actually have 6 points, but color-wise, they have 5 points, because this one will be part of this star as far as the color of it. Okay, so we'll put a pink one there with the dark coming toward the center. See what I mean about the 6th point of this star is part of this star also, and so it's a different color. Just the same way here we have 5 pink diamonds coming together, but the 6th one is going to become part of this star. And I think once you see the way the design goes, it's a little bit easier to keep track of where the pieces go. So we've completed that green star. Here we have a light pink star, and so we need to bring the light pink into this point, and that completes the 5 points of this star, because the 6th point is going to be part of this star with the dark green coming in toward the center. And that completes this green star, because this point is part of the pink with the dark in the center. So that's the way I did my design. Okay, when we go to sew it together, the first thing we're going to do is to sew this half star to this half star. So I'm going to take those 2 down, if we can keep everything else from falling here. Well, we lost one. We'll get him later. And we're going to sew these 2 pieces together. Here we have the center of our star that has to meet exactly. And the easiest way that I have for matching star points is to use a double-faced tape. Now, double-faced tape, this one is 1/8 inch wide, and it's sticky on both sides. And what you need to do is put it in the seam allowance away from the point. You can see how far it is from the point. That's why I used 1/8 inch instead of 1/4 inch, because we don't want to sew through this tape. Then you remove what looks like a masking tape, and what's left is a two-sided sticky tape. Then we'll take a pin, and from the wrong side, this is the part that does not have the tape on, from the wrong side, and you can see where the seam lines cross because of the way we pressed it. Okay, we'll bring the pin right there at the center. Now this is the part with the sticky tape. We put the pin right down in the center of this piece, so we have them right sides together. Now my fingers are keeping them apart because of the tape until we straighten out the edges, and when those are straight, we just bring the two edges together down the pin and remove the pin. Then when we sew this point, the point should match perfectly at the center. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to start from one edge and sew all the way to the edge. Now I know some of you that were not with us last week might wonder about how we're going to set in the next diamond if we sew all the way from the edge. But trust me, just start from the edge and I'll show you how we'll set it in just a minute. My foot pedal here, there we go. Okay, now we have our edges, or our very tips of our points taped together here so we know that they will match. We just hold the edges of our fabric together. Now when you come to the very center that's taped together, you can see where you have to stitch, where the seam lines cross. And occasionally that might be just one stitch to the right or to the left of your perfect 1/4 of an inch. But it's more important that your point matches. Okay, and when we get here, then we hold the ends at this end even, the edges of the fabric even. Just a little bit. Keep it even and together. All right, and now we're ready to go and press this. Okay. Now when I do my stars this way, I like to press this very center seam open because there's a lot of bulk coming together here at the very center. So let's press that seam allowance open. It's about the only time in quilting and patchwork that I do press a seam open. It's the very center one of the star. And it takes a little bit of doing because the seam allowances are pretty narrow. And this is when you'll remember to take that tape out because you can't press your seam allowance with the tape in there. Okay, and first we press this from the wrong side. You don't see me doing that too often either. Okay. And now we can turn it over and give it a press from the right side. Okay. And there our center star is ready to put into position. And I have to figure out which is the top right here, because it completes this star. All right, so that was the first step, to sew our center star together. The next thing we'll want to do is to place in position these 6 extra diamonds that we have, and these are set-ins that we need to do. So let's just take one of them and our star, and we'll go over and show you how to do that at the sewing machine. Okay. This is where this piece is going to set in. And remember, we sewed all the way to the end, to the very inside point here. That's going to match this point. So when I sew the two together, I want to sew with this green piece up. Let me just trim these threads from here. There we go. But we always want to sew with the piece up that shows us this seam when we start. And I'm going to take a pin, and this is very similar to what we did last week, if you were here with us when we did our placemats. Okay, I'm going to put a pin in right along this seam line, and then check the back to make sure it's 1/4 of an inch. Now that's too much. All right, so let's just take it out because we need to get a perfect 1/4 of an inch. And you can just check from underneath. Just move it until it is. Okay, there we have the pin. I think you can see that. It's 1/4 of an inch from this edge. Take these threads out of there too. Okay, so we're going to start stitching right on this seam line between the 2 points. That's a critical seam line, and so I wanted you to really see that. We'll start sewing there, lock our stitch, and then sew down to the end. So let's do that. Now you really do need to lock your stitch here, and we can do that a couple of different ways. You can either lower your presser foot, or lower your feed dogs rather, or you can shorten your stitch length. Depending on your machine, you want to do what's the easiest for you. But I'm first going to put my needle down right on the seam line, and my seam guide at the end is 1/4 of an inch. Now I'm going to lower my feed dogs, take out the, or lower my presser foot, take out the pin, then lower the feed dogs, and take 2 or 3 stitches in one place. That will lock that stitch and lock that seam. Then we'll raise the presser, or the feed dogs, hold my corner points even, and stitch to the end. Well, that just doesn't want to stay together there. We'll just, there we go. Okay, let's take a look at what we have here now. Get these threads out of the way. We've started sewing right on this seam line, and we've locked that seam. So now we can go back and take out the stitches from this inside point back to where we locked the seam, so that these stitches won't go any further because of the lock. So we'll just take out the stitches there, and then we can pivot our fabric, our underneath point, which means to just turn the direction, and now we can sew with the pink point on top. And you can see here where we locked it previously. That's the exact spot we're going to lock it and then sew down to this end. Let's do that now. Okay, we put the needle down in the exact spot where the lock is. Takes a minute to see that sometimes. Lower the feed dogs, take a few stitches to lock it again, then raise the feed dogs. And stitch right to the end. And with a few piecing tips like that, I think you'll find it very easy to piece in the pieces that you need in your quilt. Let's just press this so that it lays flat. And one of the things this technique for setting in does is it allows you to, it eliminates that hole you sometimes get. Okay, let's just put this back into place here. Now the next step, of course, would be to put in all of these pieces that need to be set in. There are 6 total. And then it's a matter of just a straight stitch to add this piece to this. It's like matching our center star. Same thing over here. So it becomes very easy to do. Now what I have done in my quilt is I have taken a black background and I have just turned under the edge of the star, the complete star piece, and top stitched through that to the black. Now that's a good technique to use if you want to make a tablecloth because the seams are all enclosed. If you want to go on and make a quilt, after the star is top stitched onto the black, then you turn it over and cut the black away. And that's a much easier way to piece this than to try and piece in the different angles around the star. Now, if you're comfortable with piecing in all those angles, it is difficult, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to just top stitch the star to your background fabric. Now, I hope you will take your points, your star points after you get them cut, and experiment with a lot of different designs. You know, I use 30 diamonds. Don't limit yourself to 30 diamonds. You might want to make a bigger or a smaller star. But whatever you do, have fun with your patchwork, and I hope I've encouraged you to design your own designs. And be sure and join us next week because we'll be back with another project for you to help you design your own. Thank you.
Wood is offering a companion book to the Strip Quilting 1000 series, which details the projects shown in this series. Included are placemats, wall hangings, balances, quilt, and a table runner. To order your copy, send $15, which includes shipping and handling to Strip Quilting 10, Box 456, West Branch, Michigan 48661, or call 1-800-248-K. You can also request information on the Star Maker tools needed to complete the project shown from the same phone number or address. Be certain to join us again next week for another inspiring program.
Local broadcast of Strip Quilting with Kay Wood is made possible by a grant from Peg and Lil's Needle Patch, 127 Peddlers Way, near the Square in Washington.
Next on Mystery.
They're going to get you because of that bloody car. And they can plant evidence. And they're out to get you.
Suspect's on the move. Andy's with his girlfriend. The lads reckon something's going down.
The conclusion to Prime Suspect.
Are you George Marlowe? My name is D.I. Muddyman, Southampton Road Police Station.
I don't know what's going on. All my mother's life, I haven't done a thing.
Fly me to the moon.
On the next evening at Pops, legendary jazz singer Tony Bennett
Maybe slow to walk.
joins his good friend, composer Michel Legrand.
How do you lose yourself to someone when I come home to you?
That's next time on Evening at Pops.
Francisco.
When it comes to island paradises, Palau has it all. Sun, surf, warm breezes. But there's more than one snake at the core of this Eden. Its jungle trees bleed poisonous sap, and below the tranquil surface, its landlocked sea boils with jellyfish and deadly predators. They're all part of the lost world of the Medusa, next time on Nature.
Sunday night at 7 on Channel 47. Viewer-supported television for Central Illinois. You're watching Channel 47, WTVP, Peoria.
And welcome to Quilting from the Heartland. Today we're going to have fun making the uneven 9-patch sampler together. But before looking at the quilt closely, I want to explain to you what the difference is between a 9-patch and an uneven 9-patch. First of all, when you look at a 9-patch, you'll see that there are 9 equal squares sewn together to create the finished block. An uneven 9-patch is simply 9 unequal parts sewn together to form the square. It's when you add the word sampler at the end of uneven 9-patch, that's when you have the uneven 9-patch sampler. And that simply means that each block in the completed quilt looks different. When you look at the sampler, you'll first notice that the same colors have been repeated in every block, but not necessarily the same fabric has always been used. You'll also notice that there's a light, medium, and dark fabric in each of the blocks. And I haven't necessarily got the same texture or the same amount of background in each of the fabrics. To keep control of this quilt, I used the same light fabric in each of the blocks. You'll also notice that the light fabric in most cases touches the outside edge of the block, and that made it easier to separate the blocks with sashing and the cornerstones. The units in each of the uneven 9 patches are made up of squares, half squares, quarter square triangles, and rectangles. In the bottom row, the 9 patches have a rectangle with a small square in the center. The rectangles and small squares in each 9 patch have a different fabric in them. Then when you look at the block in the center of the quilt, you'll see that I sewed 2 squares together to equal the rectangle that was used in some of the other uneven 9-patch blocks. Then, looking a little further, you'll see that there are fish in a couple of the blocks. The blocks are different because the fabric that was used and the pieces that made up the fish were also different. I scrambled a couple of the uneven 9 patches in this quilt, and it made them more interesting to look at. We'll be making them together in a couple of ways today. I'll first show you how to make them in a simple way, and then I'll show you what happens when we scramble them and make them look more complicated. The pieces that we'll be working with today look like this. I have a half square triangle, then I have a smaller triangle, and a square and a rectangle. So basically we don't have very many pieces that we'll be working with. And let me show you how they relate to the block and the block that we'll be working with. First of all, I explained to you that we'll be talking about the block in a couple of ways. The easy way, and then when you scramble it, it looks more difficult to put together. First of all, the simple one has a unit down here, and there are 4 of them, but to make them a little more different looking, I used different fabrics on the top and bottom unit. And then this is very simple to put together because there's just a rectangle here and all 4 sides. That is the easy way to put this block together. Then when you scramble the units and start moving the pieces around, this is what you end up with. And I will take you through the construction of that block in a little bit. But before we do that, let's talk about the cutting of the pieces that go into the blocks. Now, looking a little closer at the units, you'll see that, let's see, we'll move up into this part right here. You'll see that the half square triangle, that sits in here should be on the bias, and the outside of that block unit you want to be on the straight of grain, so we will cut it accordingly. And the same will be true for this one down here. We won't actually cut the rectangles and squares, but those are just always cut on the straight of grain. Ahead of time, I have cut strips of fabric to save some time today. And when cutting the half-square triangles, we will place the pattern shape down on the fabric like this so that the bias ends up on the center of the block. And to save fabric, I'm going to move it up here first like this. We'll cut this one off first, lining up the edge over here, and then I'll trim off this first part here. Now I like to cut all of the pattern shapes using a rotary cutter, and to release the blade I just push forward with my thumb and the blade is exposed. And each time you're done making a cut, it's necessary to close it so that you don't cut yourself. Then to make the next cut after you've turned, just simply follow the edge of the pattern shape, and you have 2 to 6 pieces at a time. Now I've only got 2 layers this time, but you can layer as many as 6 at a time. And you would repeat that with the next piece. Just simply lay it on and then make a cut along the pattern shape. Now I talked about the bias edge and how important it was to have it in the right place of the block. And the next piece that we're talking about sits in here like this. And again, you would have the bias up in this part of the block, and you want the straight edge in here. So you would lay it down here just like that again and cut with the bias up in there. I won't take you through any more of the cutting instructions because I think it's all pretty straightforward. You have the straight edge with the squares and rectangles, and that's basically all it is to that. Now let's go to the sewing machine and go through the techniques of putting the block together. We'll be sewing all of the pieces with a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I want you to do that to make up for the amount of fabric used in the seam line. I also recommend that you use 100% cotton fabric, or cotton thread, excuse me, to match the fabric for care and strength. And I did forget to mention that you should pre-wash all of your fabric ahead of cutting, because you don't want it to shrink when you start using the steam iron on it. Well, like I told you, it's possible to make this block in a couple of different ways, the simple way being this one, and we're going to work on the more difficult one over here. Now, to put this block together, let's first look at what we need to do. We'll make this unit up in here, and you have the same one down here. And there is no straight seam that goes through here, so we're going to have to make this into one unit, and we're going to end up with an uneven unit up in here. And that's the part that makes this one difficult. So we'll have to construct it in a way so we'll have to pivot in one of the corners. But before we get to that part, we need to start breaking it down into a simpler form. And of course, over here I have all of the pieces laid out as if you were going to start the block from the very beginning. And over here I have some of the pieces already constructed. I have already put this one together, but before we go on to the next step, I want to explain a couple of things about putting this unit together. Now over here I have started already putting a couple of them together, and I have chain sewn them to save time and thread. And when putting the triangle and the square together, just simply put them right sides together and pay particular attention to the fact that when the seam came off right here, it was not exactly in the ditch. In fact, there are a couple of stitches on the triangle. After that one is ironed open, then we'll go to the next step here. And let me talk a little bit about the ironing of the pieces today. If you're making a 9-patch and just simply sewing just squares together, it really doesn't matter if you iron your seams to one side or always open. There is a lot of controversy about which way to iron the seams, and I've started to do a lot of mine open. I guess if you decide to do it the other way, there isn't a right and wrong way. It's just what you prefer to do. And I wanted to warn you that I was going to be ironing all of mine open today. After then you have made this first seam, I would tell you to iron that seam open, and when you turn it over on the back side, this is what it would look like. Then the next piece that you add would be the same triangle, but this time the seam allowance will be in the ditch. The first one was not, the second one will be. And after you have ironed that seam open, when I turn it to the back side, this is what it will look like. This seam is open here, and this one is open here. Then when you attach these two pieces together to make the unit up in the corner up here, this is the unit that I'm talking about, we want to have a perfect corner in this part right here. And to do that, you would just simply put these two pieces right side together and make sure that you sewed directly over the point where the intersection comes together. That's how easy that is to put together. Now that is the simple way to put this one together. So you see that all you have to do is make 4 of those units, but just with a different combination of fabrics. Then you would connect these together in here and over here, and then you have the piece through the middle that completes the block. Okay, now that we've talked a little bit about the simple one, let's go back to this one over here, and we need to decide what we're going to add next. Let's connect. Now I've turned it the wrong way. It's easy to get them turned around, I guess, when we're working on them. You need to work on a flannel board. I find that very helpful when working with something like this, because it is easy to get them turned around. The next thing I'm going to do now is connect this block to this one. Right sides together, and I'm going to use a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance, like I said. I am not going to do any back stitching when putting any of these pieces together. Notice how I didn't take the time to put any pins in either. I just finger pin the pieces together when I'm working. Now after those two pieces are put together, we will be putting this unit over here together. And let me explain to you about the pressing that I do. I first finger press all of my seams open, and to do that, I just run my finger along the seam line to press it open, and then I turn it to the right side and press it again. And if you don't have an ironing board attached right to your sewing machine like I do, then maybe you want to make a setup where you have a portable one that you can put on a card table right next to you, because it is very important to take the time to iron as you're going. Now let's put this back up here and make sure that we have it going in the right direction. Like that. And like I said, we're going to put this unit on over here. So now let's put these two right sides together and connect that one. When connecting these, I'm going to insert a pin right on the seam line 1/4 inch from the edge, and then I'm going to leave that pin standing on the top one and then on the bottom. The next pin that I'm going to put in is one on each side of it, and then we'll sew that seam together. And I don't take out that middle pin until I have the other two sides secured. Now, if you weren't didn't have all these angles in your 9 patch, of course it wouldn't matter if you ironed your seams to one side or open. I'm just going to finger pin these pieces together. Now, when I approach the pins down here, I'm going to slow down and take them out just as I get to them. We'll cross over the seam. And again, I won't do any back stitching. Check underneath and make sure everything is laying flat. and just follow the fabric right up to the needle with the stiletto when you get to the end. Open up the seam and see how perfect that goes together. We have a perfect match just by leaving that pin standing when we put the other two pieces on. Again, take the time to finger press that seam open. That will guarantee that you won't have any of those wells in your seams. And if you've done any quilting at all, you'll know that sometimes if you're not careful, you'll end up with little pleats in your seam lines. Now we have that particular part of the block all put together, right up in there. Now the next part that you want to put together, we'll put this complete unit together down here. To do that, we first have to put this one on here, right sides together again. Now notice that up here we have a little ear on both sides. That's the 1/4 inch seam allowance that's hanging over the edge. Again, no back stitching when you start out. You notice probably that I held on to the fabric behind the presser foot so that it didn't go down in. Check underneath and make sure that it's all laying flat. And again, just sew off the end. Take the time then again to finger press it open. I noticed that when I was working with these shapes on the computer that it was possible to create many different blocks when I scrambled the pieces around, and it really was a lot of fun to design the different blocks that we're working with in this program. Now the next piece that we're going to put on is right down in here. We're going to connect this one to this one, and again we're going to stab that pin right on the seam line, and that will hold it in place when I sew over the seam. Right on the seam line, 1/4 inch from the edge, and again secure it in place with a pin there and one over here. Now we'll just move that over there so we have a nice little match. And again, when I approach these pins, I'm going to make sure that everything is nice underneath and just hold it down with the stiletto till I get up to the pin, and then remove it and cross over the seam. This is not difficult at all to do. It's all straight sewing. We're not working with anything really difficult at all except a few bias edges, and that's not difficult if you're careful and don't stretch them when you iron them. Okay, now we're starting to see that uneven piece that I was talking about that was going to be difficult to set in. Now, again, take the time to finger press that seam open so that it lays nice and flat. Actually, it's easy to hand quilt it or machine quilt, either one, after you have done it this way. I just prefer not having all that bulk in the corners. Okay, now it's becoming closer to being able to put this in. The next thing now that I want to put together is this one onto here, and I need to sew directly over the point right here when I put these together, so I will sew with that seam on the top. So put them right sides together, and then I'm going to flip it over so that I can see that intersection, and that will help me to have a perfect point on the other side. This time I'm going to put a pin there to hold it down. Again, don't backstitch. It'll only create problems later. And we're going to stop. We're going to sew directly over that point right there. This is really a fun block to put together. You just have to take a little bit of time to think about what you're doing and take it one step at a time. Directly over that point right there. And again off the end, check to see that everything is laying flat. and no back stitching. There we have the perfect point on the other side. One more time, we'll take the time to finger press it open because we won't be able to set that corner in unless we've gone through this particular part of it. Cut off all the threads. Actually, if I'm back in my sewing room, I would take the time to clip off all the ears. I don't think I've talked about that yet, but when on the back side you'll see that there are some ears here and different places in the block. Trim those off as you go because you don't want that on the back of your quilt. Okay, we only have one more piece to add, and that's over here, and then we'll be ready to put that piece in there. It would be very easy to get the units going in the wrong direction, so do refer back to your flannel board as you're working, especially a block like this. If you're repeating the same units over and over, you don't have to worry about it. But when you're starting to scramble them, I think it would be impossible to do it without referring back to it. Again, sew directly over that point, and you'll now have a perfect point on the other side. Again, finger press it open, and you won't have any of those little wells that you hear about when you're putting patches together. If you keep your iron close by, it's not a problem. It's when you have to jump up and go to the ironing board that you're probably not going to want to do that. Okay, now it's time to talk about putting this unit in the corner. And let's put it back up here and make sure that we have everything going right. Everything is laying the way we want it to go. Okay, we'll move it down here, and we'll move these things out of the way. And let's talk about this corner right here and the unit that made up this little jog in the quilt. When you look at this piece that sits down in here, you'll see that I have left the seam allowance open in that area, and that's where I'm going to pivot, and that's the part that makes it possible then to have this scrambled block like we're working with. To make this unit that sits right in here, the first thing you want to do is put a triangle on up here and stop 1/4 of an inch from the edge of this triangle. Then we're going to put another one on down here, and when we're putting that one on, I have to lift this one underneath out of the way, and I will stop sewing 1/4 of an inch from this piece, and that's how I will end up with this particular situation here where the seam allowance hasn't gone all the way through. So now let's take the time to put this one on. And at this is the first time actually that I will be doing any of the back stitching at all throughout the whole quilt. And I'm going to put a pin there so that I know exactly where I want to back stitch to and where I want to stop. So put the fabric in, right sides together, and notice that I only used one pin to do that whole part. Back up to the pin, stop with the needle down and go forward, and we'll sew off to the end. Now when we get to this end, we won't do any back stitching at all. That is really the secret to this whole scrambled 9 patch, is how to put the center block in right here. Okay, now when we finish off here, we're going to make a seam here and here. And you have to determine which one you want to have on the right side. And I'm going to want to sew with this one on the right side because I want to see where this intersection is that I want to match up. So place this one on the right side right here. Now I'll have that intersection visible because that's the one. There aren't any points on the back side that I have to match up. We'll put a pin there, and then I'm going to put a pin right where I want to pivot. I'm going to put it 1/4 of an inch from the corner on both sides there and right at the point where I want to pivot. So we'll first make this seam coming from here No back stitching. And make sure that you sew right over the point, right here. And as you approach this corner, you want to make sure that you don't have anything laying in the wrong direction underneath. We're just about to the corner where we want to pivot, and there we'll stop with the needle in a down position, or you can backstitch, whichever one you want to do. And if you think it's easier to stop and backstitch at that corner, that's fine. We'll do it that way today. Okay, then we'll turn the fabric and we'll match this one over here like this. And we'll sew the rest of the seam. I think I will put a pin over here, and that will keep it from moving around. Okay, now what I'm going to do, after I have the fabric readjusted, is just back into that corner where the last seam ended. Well, now after you've seen how easy it is to put some of these together, you'll probably want to unscramble some of your own 9 patches. Now we'll just sew off to the end, and we will have completed our first scrambled uneven 9-patch block. The seam that we have just completed is the one right in here. I hope you can join us next week when I show you how to scramble another uneven 9-patch block. And we'll also be putting together the jack in the pulpit, and I'll show you what happens when you repeat the same block over and over in the same quilt.
To receive a copy of Char's Quilting from the Heartland Series 400 project book, send $14.95 plus $3 shipping to Quilting from the Heartland, Book 400, 9015 Highway 40 Northwest, Montevideo, Minnesota, 56265. To order by phone, call 1-800-637-2541. Please have your Visa, MasterCard, or Discover card ready. You can send your comments or suggestions to us via email at quiltheart@craftnet.org. Quilting from the Heartland, sponsored in part by Better Homes and Garden, American Patchwork and Quilting, Omnigrid, Rulers and Mats, Viking Husqvarna Sewing Machine Company, Fairfield, maker of Polyfill brand quilt batting, fiberfill and pillows, Fisker's Rotary Cutters, Gammill hand-guided quilting machines. We hope you enjoyed this program. Please join Char again next week for another Quilting from the Heartland program.
Next time on Baseball.
Fastball hit deep to right.
He was the only one who would go out to warm up, and he would get applause similar to a symphony conductor.
The moment that we found out that the owners didn't want Marvin Miller, he was our guy.
I'm sorry that I'm like this, but it's baseball.
Don't miss a whole new ball game, the 8th inning of baseball.
Monday night at 8 on Channel 47.
Next time on Nova. Millions of years ago, a cataclysmic volcano lay waste to a vast section of America. But it also preserved hundreds of extraordinary skeletons that lay hidden for ages, until one man found them. A glimpse of a lost prehistoric world when animals like these roamed the American plains. Buried in ash. That's next time on Nova.
Tuesday at 7, following McNeil Lehrer on Channel 47.
Over the centuries, millions of people have crossed mountains, deserts, and rivers in search of sacred places. Millions still do. Travel with 4 of them as they follow in the footsteps of pilgrims of the past. Legendary trails.
Tuesday at 9, following Frontline on Channel 47. Viewer-supported television for Central Illinois. You're watching Channel 47, WTVP, Peoria.
Hi, I'm Amy. Welcome to Homestretch. I hope that you're ready to work out with us. We get a lot of letters here at Homestretch about abdominal exercises. Always saying, why don't you do more abdominal exercises? Today's the day. So make sure you have a mat or a towel, something that you can put on the floor. If you have a step or a chair that you can put your feet up on, that would be preferable, just to help keep your low back down. Okay, working with me today on my left is Eva, and on my right is Francis. And we are going to warm up ever so briefly, though, because you don't need too much of a warm-up for abdominals. So what we're going to do is hope to open up the rib cage. So I want you to take one arm over and just stretch it over. See how you can feel that stretch right there. Now just very tiny little pulses to the corner. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. Now hold right there, hold right there. Bring that arm way up, open it up, lift tall, bring it back down. Take the other arm up and stretch, so you're working through the side. Yeah, that's it. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Now pulse very, very small, just so you kind of stretch here. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Bring it back up, like you're drawing a big circle with your arm. That's great. Now I want you to circle your shoulders back, right, and left. So we tend to hold a lot of tension in the upper body. If the abdominals are not strong enough, a lot of people just use their shoulders and their neck, and even tighten the jaw. So I want you to be very aware of that, okay? It's 4 and 3. Now just shoulder shrugs. Looks like this. And down. Just lift and lower. 5, 6, 7. Hold down here. Now one more thing. I want you to pivot to the side. Press the heel back, because we're going to open up the hip flexor. When you do abdominal exercises, you pull in and you tighten or shorten up the hip flexor. So we're going to stretch it out at the beginning, and hopefully we'll have time to stretch it out at the end. But if not, you'll know to do that, okay? Bring it back up. Just take it to the other side, press through, and hold. And again, you're lifting up tall out of the rib cage and sink into the stretch. Press your heel back, hold it. Okay, you guys ready to start? They look ready. Are you ready? Okay, bring it back up. Now we're going to go down to the mat, starting with our feet up on the step. So, hope you'll join us. I want you to not lie down yet. Just put your feet up, heels down, toes up, fingertips underneath those knees. Now all you have to do is just pull back, not all the way down to the floor. Think about sitting on the inside of a circle. Abdominals are tight. The navel is pressed back toward the spine, and you're going to hold and separate your shoulder blades. Now, little lifts, 2 counts up and 2 counts back down. So you see, we're keeping it in a really small range of motion. And you got to breathe. Rule of thumb, exhale on the effort or on the hardest part of the exercise. So that's what we're going to do right now, and we're going to lift up. You guys still there? Uh-oh. They don't look real confident. You can do this. You can do this. Yeah. And again, for some reason, abdominal exercises are the exercises that we love to hate, and we hate to love, because they seem to be the hardest for so many people. Okay, we're going to continue on with this. If you're strong enough, you can take your hands away, and that puts a little more stress right here in the middle portion of the body. Relax your shoulders. No shoulders up like this by your ears. I want it nice and low. Lift and down. Okay, now I'm going to show you one more option. If you're real strong, you're going to pull one knee in, squeeze, and back down. Other knee comes in. So you're squeezing and really using that resistance. In, squeeze, and down. Now, during these exercises, you may see the modifications carried out by Eva or Francis, you know, whatever is comfortable for them. And I will show you some modifications. So if you see a little variation in form now and again, that's why. And lift, and squeeze, and down, lift up, and squeeze, and down. How many more? Oh, 10, 11, 42. All right, one more time, and lift, and squeeze, and down, and hold right there. Hold under those legs. Let's take it back down to the floor. 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yay! All right, just let's stretch it out for a minute. So drop your legs straight out, arms overhead, let the back arch. Nice long stretch. Once again, we're elongating the rib cage here, flattening and stretching out those abdominal muscles, and release back down. Place your feet back up on top of your step. Take your hands back behind your head, starting with a pelvic tilt. You're going to round your back down, tuck your hips under, lifting the tailbone off the floor, and then once again pressing the tailbone down and letting the back arch up to tempo. 2 counts up and 2 counts down. Do it again. Lift and squeeze. So here we're really just utilizing the abdominal muscles to pull in, just like an accordion. I know I just repeat that over and over again, but it really helps me when, if I'm taking a class, I like to hear the instructor give me little mental images, like somebody once said, it's like if someone came up and was going to punch you in the stomach, and you would naturally just contract, wouldn't you? So that's another mental image. Whatever works, okay? Hands behind the head. Now lift the upper body, chin is lifted, and again, lift straight up to the ceiling. It doesn't have to go far. So you're working both ends against the middle here. And again, you're going to breathe and exhale and slow back down. Come on, lift, squeeze right there. Back down slow. So concentrate on the contraction right at the top. Lift up and squeeze and back down slow. Lift up and squeeze it and back down slow. All right, we're going to do 4 more of these, and then I'm going to just show you a little variation, okay? So we're going to start by extending the arm that's closest to us. So if you're working with us, you're going to extend one arm in line with your ear. Palm goes up and back down. So you may have already felt that there's a little more resistance there. Lift and squeeze, back down. You want to keep one hand behind your head. That'll help you so that you won't hurt your neck. And again, yes, lift, squeeze. Okay, now I'm going to add a little more variation, and next time this will keep your low back down. I'm going to lift the same leg as the arm that I have extended, and back down, and again, lift, squeeze, back down. And I'm not lifting it very far, not far at all. I'm just lifting, and again. Now the pelvic tilt part has to stop when you do that, because this keeps your back down. This keeps your back down as you lift. Lift and squeeze, slow back down. Lift and squeeze, back down. Francis, how are you? Are you there? Eva? Yes? Okay. Promise me you'll let me know if you're just dying back there, all right? Lift and down. 2 more. Go up and down. One more. Lift up and back down and hold. Extend both legs, arms overhead. Give me that quick stretch. Yes, that's good. Now we're going to come back to that. We're going to use the other arm and other leg, but not right away. I want to start with something else here. So place your feet back on the step. Now this time, the leg that's closest to us, just put that foot right up on top of the opposite knee. Now, here's the hard part. This bent leg, the opposite arm. Bring it around behind and see if you can just touch your ear. See if you can reach all the way around. Hold on to this leg with your hand. Now you're going to lift up and across, because we're working diagonally. And you can't really bring your elbow around. You see how that works? Okay, we're going to open up. Ready to count. Lift, squeeze, back down again. Lift. Now this is getting those diagonal muscles. Yeah, squeeze it, and back down slow. Lift and squeeze. Now try not to pull. Even though you have this hand here, yes, I'm not pulling myself up with that arm. I'm just holding it there just to give me a little bit of balance and also to keep in position. So I don't want you to really pull or tug. If it's easier for you, some people like to take their arm out here to the side, and you can do that as well. So either way is fine. Okay, now single lifts. Go up and down, lift and lower, squeeze up. Now you see, you have to shorten up that range of motion. Lift from a lifted position and don't let your shoulder drop back on the floor, okay? I want you to just squeeze and lift, 4 and down, 3, yes, yes, and 2, okay. Hold it at the top. Now little pulses, squeeze and squeeze. Originate this movement, originate it right from the abdominals, not from your shoulder. Go 8, 7, 6, and 5, yay, 4, 3, 2, 1, bring it back down slow. Release the hand. Let's take those legs straight out, arms overhead. I heard something back there. Francis, what was that? Is that a complaint? I hope not. All right, now let's start again by taking our feet, heels on the step, hands behind the head, tuck your hips under. Ready? Upper body lifts for 2 and back down for 2 and lift. Now, remember, we're going to come back to that first thing we did. So I want you to extend the other arm in line with your ear and down for 2. Lift and down. So really contract, lift, squeeze. Now here you can engage that lower body, the little pelvic tilt. You can still kind of do that. But as soon as we start to add that leg lift, you probably feel like you can't do that anymore. Okay, lift that leg. Lift, squeeze, back down. And again, lift, squeeze, back, down. Lift, squeeze, back, down. How you feeling? Can you feel this? Oh, yes. And lift and squeeze. So we're really using the whole body here. Lift, squeeze, back down. You're looking good. Lift. Oh, yeah. Okay. I want 4 more. And down. And 3 more. You know, abdominals actually are my favorite. I must be nuts, okay? Lift and lift. Back down and hold. Extend the legs out, arms overhead. I don't know why they are, but I do like to do them a lot. All right, mostly probably because I need them. All right, let's bring those no comments, okay? Now you're going to take the first time you lifted the leg closest to us. Now reverse. Take the other foot on top. Now you're going to take the opposite arm, reach around, see if you can just touch your ear so that you really have that shoulder way back. Grab hold with the leg, and it's lift, lift, back down, slow, lift, squeeze, back down. So I really want you to focus here on going diagonally. And again, lift, squeeze, back down, and it's lift. I think one of the biggest problems, well, I don't know if it's a problem, I guess it's more like a fallacy. People think that if they do hours and hours and hours of abdominal exercises, that they're, you know, going to have a nice flat stomach. Well, that may or may not be, because what that really depends on is not only the abdominal exercises that you do, but also your fat intake and how much actual fat you have. You can have great, strong muscles in the abdominals, but still under layers of fat. So what you have to do is, as well as watch the fat intake in your diet, and you know that, then you also need to step up that cardiovascular and aerobic activity so that you really make it much more efficient at burning the calories. Ready? Okay. Now give me single, lift and lower, lift. Remember to shorten up the range of motion here. 4 more, 3 more, 2 more. You're looking good. You're looking good. Hold it at the top and squeeze and pulse. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 more, 3 more, 2 more. Last time, bring it back down and release. Yay. Oh, arms overhead. Francis, are you there? Oh, yes, she is. Okay, and release it out. That stretch feels so good. All right, now bring your arms down by your side and pull your knees in 90 degrees. Pretend like you're sitting in a chair. Cross your ankles, and again, you can take your hands behind your head. Now, sometimes people will put their arms down here with the palms down. But I tend not to do that because I think that I use my shoulders to lift up. So this really just engages lower body. We're going to lift up for 2 and down for 2, and we're ready to go right now. Here we go. Lift, squeeze, round back down, lift. Here's the contraction. Back down. Do it again. Lift, squeeze. Oh, yes. We need to get everybody down the floor and doing these. So wherever you are, come on, exercise with us. Lift, squeeze, down and down, lift, squeeze. Now you can engage the upper body by lifting and squeezing and back down slow. Lift, squeeze. Now here's a variation. If you're having a lot of problem with this, I want you to just place one foot on the step or the floor, depending. Try not to use this leg to push off with. In other words, it still has to originate right here in the abs, okay? But this just gives your back a little more support. So I want you to be able to at least begin to accomplish a little of this so that you don't get discouraged. Yes! Down and down and down, lift, up, 2, down. All right, we're gonna add a variation on this. We're gonna uncross the ankles and drop the heels down by the buttocks. Now pull the heels in right towards your nose. In and down. Now we're going to start to speed it up. I'm going to give you 2 more of these. Ready? Here's 1. In and down. 1 more. Take it in and in. Now shorten up the range of motion. Singles. In and down. In, down. Squeeze and down. Drop the heels and down. In, down. Squeeze, down, in. 4 more. 4, very small. 3 and 2 and last time. Hold it up, hold it up, hold it there. Extend the legs straight up. Flex your feet. Oh! Now lift and lower. Lift. Once again, here's a variation. And whichever you want to do, you can place 1 foot right on the step. That's fine. And this will just help you lift and lower. Yes. 8, these are hard. 7, 6, 5. Give me 4 more, 4 more. 4, 3 more, 2 more. Oh no, we're gonna hold it at the top and pulse it. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and we're gonna do that one more time. Go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Can you do it one more set? Yes. Lift. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I give up. Bring it back down. Drop the feet down, stretch it out. Oh, they're so happy. Stretch it out. Hold right there. Yeah, that's good work. All right, you did great. Now, I'm gonna have you take your hands down by your side, lift your head first, and press up nice and slow. Okay, we're gonna press up. Now, we're gonna also work a little bit on the back. So what we need to do is move our mats. We're just going to turn them so we're facing towards you. And we're going to show you how to do some back exercises that might help you. Now, we're going to lie all the way down. Favorite position here. And what I want for you to do is to place your palms right here, either under your chin, or if you drop your head, you can place them right on your forehead. Now, lift the lower body, lift the legs, and just hold and lift. Now, don't take it too high. You're going to squeeze the gluteal muscles. Lift and hold. 4, 3, 2, 1, and release back down. Good. Now, just relax for a minute, because what we're trying to do is strengthen right here in the lower back. Let's try that one more time. Place the hands here or drop down here. This I'm trying to look at you and do this as well. So I want you to make sure that if you drop the forehead down, that really is a better position, because that's going to keep your spine in line. And you're going to hold right there, hold right there. 4, 3, 2, 1, and release back down. All right, something else. Extend your right arm and your left leg, and you're just going to hold it there. Now what you need to do is take the other hand, make a fist, drop your forehead right down on that fist. That's going to help you to support your back and keep everything in line. Now little lift, singles, up and down, 2 and down. You doing okay? Keep it small. This is not a big swing. This is just a very, very tiny little lift. Up and down, up and down. 4, 3, 2, 1, and release back down. Good. Now I want you to take your hands right underneath your shoulders and press up, and then you're going to walk them in. Now this time I want you to scoop the back, just stretch, and then release. And let's walk the hands out again. Oh, yes, here we go. Now we're going to do the same thing we just did with the other arm. You're going to stretch the arm out and lift the leg. Remember, you can take that fist, drop the forehead down on the fist, and hold right there. Now, you're just holding a little bit. See, I don't have my arm way up high. I just have it about in line with my shoulder. And we're going to lift and lower, lift and lower, lift and lower. Yeah, just relax the upper body. And again, you're going to squeeze and release. 8, 7, 6, and 5. 4 more. Come on, 4. And 3 more. 2 more. 1, and release back down. Perfect, perfect. Once again, take your hands under your shoulders, press up, and let's stretch out the back. Now this time I want you to just sit back. Don't drop the buttocks all the way to the heels, but pull, so you're pulling across the shoulder blades right there, and then come back up and round your back again. Yeah, that's good, that's good. Hold right there and carefully release it, and let's take it down one more time, okay? We're going to come back to this positioning, and you're going to squeeze the gluteal muscles, lift those feet behind, and just lift and hold, lift and hold. 8, 7, 6, and 5. 4 more. 4, 3 more, 2 more. Good work, everybody, good work. Bring it back down. Yay. Now just take your elbows down underneath your shoulders. Now here's what I want you to pretend. Pretend like you're going to drag your body across the floor, and you're going to dig the elbows in, and see how that just opens up the rib cage and it makes it feel so good. Just open up and then gently relax it, and then open it up again and gently relax. Good, good, good. All right, let's bring it up onto the side. Just roll over and swing around to the side. How do you feel? Okay? All right, what I really think we need to do is stretch out the hip flexors first, because we pulled those legs in a lot. So I want you to come up, and we're just going to turn to an angle here so you can see us. Take your right leg and gently stretch. Now, if you have something to hold on to, that's fine. If you don't, what you can do is just carefully lean forward. Now, you can almost wiggle this foot back a little bit. The shoelace is on the floor. Shoelace is on the floor. And hold. So, how does that feel? Okay? Better, better, better. Now, just lift the upper body and take your hands back behind you and stretch. Ah, now that feels good. And really stretch through those shoulders. Hold it. And bring it back up. Now, release your hands. Now, this time, as we come back up, your knee and your hip are in line, and here's where you might need something to hold on to for balance. The front leg is going to remain slightly soft. Heel is down, toe is up, hinged at the hips. Now we're going to stretch forward because we want to stretch out the hamstrings here. Now we haven't really worked them the same way we would in aerobics, but it helps if you can stretch out that whole lower torso. And slowly bring it back up. Now let's see if we can just change sides here for a second. So we're going to take the other foot forward. Now the most important thing to remember on this is that this forward leg remains at a 90-degree angle. So you don't want that knee to slide past it. Shoelace on the floor. And again, you're going to lift up. Come on, lift up. Now, it's not going to do you any good if you're down like this, because this is the hip flexor, the part that pulls the leg forward or towards you. So we're going to elongate it. It'll help you to stand up straighter. Yeah, okay? And then let's take it all the way up to a 90-degree angle. You see how this leg is 90 degrees. Turn the toe up, and again, hinged at the hips. You probably need to put one arm down and just hold. Nice, easy stretch. Just hold right there. Toe is up. Hold it. Hold. Keep the toe up. And carefully, let's round it back up. Ah, okay. I think we're going to sit down here. That seems like a great idea. So now we're going to get all the tension out of your shoulders that you put there when you couldn't do the abdominals. All right, relax the shoulders, press way down. Think good thoughts, okay? You did great, I know you did. And those abdominal exercises are hard, but they're good for you. And you can actually do abdominal exercises every day. So I want you to practice. Drop the ear down. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Chin down. To the other side.
To receive a brochure with information about Dynabands, the step, weights, or Homestretch exercise videos, please send a self-addressed stamped envelope to WTVI Videos, 3242 Commonwealth Avenue, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28205. To purchase Homestretch videos, equipment, or a CD or cassette of our special music to relax by, please call 1-800-582-9522. Operators are available to help you Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 3 Eastern Time.
What's coming up next? It's Sesame Street.
When it comes to island paradises, Palau has it all. Sun, surf, warm breezes. But there's more than one snake at the core of this Eden. Its jungle trees bleed poisonous sap, and below the tranquil surface, its landlocked sea boils with jellyfish and deadly predators. They're all part of the lost world of the Medusa, next time on Nature.
Sunday night at 7 on Channel 47.
Next time on Masterpiece Theater.
Get down!
Richard Sharp must choose between duty and love.
You did your duty. Now I must do mine. My men are all crack shots. They never miss. You did damn well, Sharp.
Sharp's Rifles. Next time on Masterpiece Theater.
Sunday night at 8 on Channel 47.
On next David Attenborough's Natural World, he may not look the part, but he's the fighter pilot of the bird world.
The fish is stunned before being swallowed head first.
Find out what gives this bird such an eye for a meal. Meet the kingfisher next time on David Attenborough's Natural World.
Monday night at 7 on Channel 47.
Dinosaurs have been dead for 64 million years, but the study of fossils and ancient life forms gives new life to these terrible lizards and sets them roaming the landscape of our mind. Let Eyewitness take you where fact, fiction, and fossils combine on Dinosaur.
Monday night at 7:30 on Channel 47.
Next time on Baseball.
Fastball hit deep to right.
He was the only one who would go out to warm up, and he would get applause similar to a symphony conductor.
The moment that we found out that the owners didn't want Marvin Miller, he was our guy.
I'm sorry that I'm like this, but it's baseball.
Don't miss a whole new ball game. The 8th inning of baseball.
Monday night at 8 on Channel 47.
Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Lee. You know, there are a lot of game shows out there that claim they have all the bells and whistles. Well, World of Carmen San Diego has bells, whistles, sirens, screams, and all the loud thud noises anyone could possibly want. Go. Do not accept substitutes. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? We've got it all.
Weekdays at 4 on Channel 47.